Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon,
I'm Alexis.
and we are welcoming you back to a very sexy episode of Get Stiff.
Get Stiff is a podcast where we have conversations around grief, loss, and everything in between over cocktails. Each episode coincides with a themed cocktail, and we share the recipe with our listeners.
Today's cocktail is the Pineapple Rum Punch. A little sweet, tropical, and sexy, which is a perfect way to introduce our guest. Today we're here with Robin Denise, a sexologist, sex doula, and pleasure empowerment coach. Robin is all about emotional and physical well-being, prioritizing healing people with self-connection through sound, energy healing, and sensual trapeze yoga. Yes, y'all, we're getting into it today. So if you are fucking ready, let's raise a glass. Let's take a sip. And let's get into it. Robin's drinking her rum straight because no chaser with this one.
Just straight.
So,
Hitting the throat already.
hey, thank you so much for joining us.
I am really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Robin, we always like to start off with a little bit of an introduction. So, can you share a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got here?
Well, let's see. There's so many journeys. So are we thinking my grief journey, my sex journey, the ones that merge together?
We're at whatever
Let's do
you
all
feel
of them.
comfortable sharing. Yeah, we're here for it.
Okay.
Everything.
So my mother was the first big death that I experienced at the age of 25. And it's funny because we're recording on her birthday. So today is her birthday, and like I celebrated and had a nice ritual with her and sat down and talked and all these things that I do to continue to keep my connection with my mom. But yeah, like my journey towards sex doula, sexologist really started with her death. And in that death, I began the journey of like asking deeper questions, like what's happening and what happens to her, and all of those things are coming up. And then also being faced with the feeling of sadness that I'm moving along in my life, and others are moving along in their life and having fun and having pleasure and having all these like wonderful things. And it's like, but this person's not here with me to see it or be a part of it, to take in the joy and in the pleasures with me. So in that walk and asking those questions and coming to terms with my own like belief systems and my own sexuality through that time, because belief was very tied to how I showed up sexually. And so taking that walk got me to a place where I was like, I'm doing trapeze. I was finding flexibility and freedom and deeper femininity through that practice. And then I got my certification in it, and it was just like, how can I go deeper here? Like I'm in this feminine realm with the trapeze, with my practice. My body is feeling better. Like before I started practicing, I was almost 200 pounds. And I got into that regular practice and just saw my body and my personality and my confidence shifting. And in that shift came the, how can I share the world? How can I tell the world about this? How can I make sure I'm not the only one experiencing it? What else is this doing for me? And in that, what else this is doing for me got me to Tantra and sexology and sex doula and the spiritualness behind your interactions with intimacy with yourself and how it creates a deeper knowing of self. And that is where Robin, the sexologist, the sex doula came. Like I found the Atlanta Institute of Tantra and picked up and went to Costa Rica for like half of the year to study underneath this goddess, and Yeah, it's fucking transfer. Oh, can I cuss?
You can
Sorry.
curse, yes.
Of course.
This is
Y'all
a safe
gotta check. You
space.
gotta check.
This is a safe space. No, we have the little E on our episodes. You're good. You're good.
It was fucking phenomenal. And that work has like got me to a new place of what grief and pleasure looks like in my life. So yeah, that's my story. That's my road.
Well,
Take a sip.
I love that you mentioned, hey, listen, I will drink to that, okay?
Fine.
Look how pretty it is. It kind of
Cheers.
looks like a little, I don't know how it's separated like that. I didn't do it on purpose, but it's fun.
You did that.
I intended to do it. It was on purpose. So I like when you said that your journey started with the death of your mother. And up until 2017, I hadn't lost anyone. I mean, I'd lost like grandparents. I'd lost a couple friends here and there in high school, but that were like kind of removed, but never anyone so close until 2017 when I lost my fiance 3 weeks before the wedding. You know, you were there. And by now, people who listen know the story. So I didn't really make that connection until then. And so a lot of times when people lose a partner, you're missing the intimacy and sexual gratification and pleasure. And it's taboo to talk about it because people think it means that you don't miss your partner. And, so why do you think that rediscovering intimacy is a taboo topic for people who've experienced a loss or who may be moving through grief?
I think it's because sexual health and just sex in general outside of the regular like societal thought process of when intimacy and sex is supposed to happen. I think any talk about it outside of that frame brings like a taboo, brings like we shouldn't be discussing that. And so it's not going to be until those mindsets begin to shift will we be able to freely talk about intimacy and sex, whether it is after someone has passed and you're dealing with that, or whether it's after you just lost a child and you're dealing with that. So, yeah.
What tips do you think you have That was a confrontational ass question. Let me rephrase that. What tips do you think you have?
Do you think you have? Like,
who wrote this question? Me.
It was not me.
What are some shit? What are some tips that you'd be willing to share for people who are looking to rediscover intimacy with themselves? So someone who's newly widowed, who has lost their partner, and maybe you're not necessarily ready to be with someone else, but just sort of kind of trying to get back into your body. What do you think they should do as they're, how to get back on this path of being intimate either with themselves or with someone else?
Yeah. That's a great question. I really like it. And it's right up my alley. So, one of the things that I practice is self seduction. And I teach it, like, I work with people on it because there's a connection between loving your body and fully embodying yourself. Right? Like if you struggle to really love your body, how can you feel comfortable within the body to embody who you are fully? And so there's this practice that I have of self-seduction, seducing myself, encouraging myself to love myself and touch myself the way that I want another person to do. And also, like, if I'm not doing it, how can I provide the guidance for someone else to do it to me? And so the practice is around that, right? So after you've lost one, you're not really ready to be engaging with loads of people. Engaging with self is really the most important thing. It brings you groundedness in your own body. Sometimes after a loss, like you just don't feel there, you know, you kind of feel numb. There can be this like kind of spacey outness where it's just kind of like a heaviness, right? That also takes you outside of your body. But self touch and pleasure and masturbation brings you home to your body. It's somatic work. It's work that allows you to be fully ingrained in yourself. And then you can begin to invite so much pleasure and reconnection. And when you reconnect within, it makes it that much easier to start reaching without.
That was so beautiful.
There were so many gems you just said within that last thing.
Right?
I know. It was like so much.
Thanks.
Self-seduction.
I wasn't expecting all that this early. Oh my God.
No, but I love that though, because it's so true when we're experiencing grief. Like we do almost in a way kind of detach from our physical body because we just have so much going on in our minds. And I love how you brought up the fact of really trying to connect with yourself first, because like you were saying, how can you expect to guide someone else or connect with someone else if you're so like disrupted within and disconnected within? So I loved that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think that even people who may not be experiencing grief, just in general, a lot of people find discomfort in telling someone else how to please them and may not self-seduce. I love that terminology. I love that, self-seduction. And I think a lot of people may not do that, and they either get mad or they say the sex was bad because they expect someone else just to know. And not like, 'cause I will, like, if it's not good, I will give instructions. Like, how are you gonna tell me what I like? And I'll never forget this one person who was like shocked, was like, you give a lot of instructions. It's just like, well, you've never been here before, so
let me guide you.
Let me guide you. You have never ridden this ride. So
I am the GPS.
Thank you. This is the route to get to where we are trying to arrive at a destination.
We both want to go here. Let me show you how we get there.
Let me show you how to get there.
Pick the voice you want to use. Pick the
There
voice
you go.
want to use.
There you go. But I love that because so many people, I think, it's just like, well, then why are you doing it if you're not having any fun? Like, why are you? So I love that. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that is very important to rediscover yourself because you're almost like meeting a new person in a sense. You're not the same person. Like, I'm sure you are not the same person. Well, I know you're not the same person now because I knew the person before your mom passed. For y'all who don't know, me and Robin actually go way back. We grew up together. We grew up in the same church system. And so a lot of these, it's interesting hearing you talk about it because even on your sexual journey, I think about, it mirrors in a way a lot of experiences that I had over the course of my life as well. And so it's interesting because we both came from that very same foundation on those camping trips with both of our mothers. God help us.
Yes.
God help us. We were friends. But so it's really interesting just to see how you've grown and how you've, the journey that you're on and that you continue to go on. And I found that so incredible. And I just really admire that about you. But yes, self-seduction. It's cool as fuck. Do it. I didn't have a word for it. I was doing something like that, but I just didn't have a word for it. It's just like, so y'all don't treat yourselves the way you want to be treated.
Right.
What you mean?
Now it's self-seduce.
Yes.
I love it.
Yourself. Or seduce yourself.
Seduce yourself.
Seduce yourself. I don't even... Let me get that on like a sticker. Put it on the car. So I'm so curious about your sensual yoga trapeze. I want to know all about it. And I want to know how something like this would be really beneficial for someone who is actively grieving.
Yes. Okay. So sensual yoga trapeze is one of my favorite things in the world. For those who don't know what a yoga trapeze looks like, it is, if you're familiar with the TRX that has like that adjustable handle and it's two straps, the trapeze has two straps with three handles at different levels. So it's not adjustable, but it has three different levels, right? And then in the middle of those two straps, it's kind of almost like a hammock. It's kind of silky, seated. It's made out of parachute fabric. Um, and that can support, all of your weight. So you can do any type of workouts on that thing, from TRX workouts to yoga flows, and the yoga flows on a trapeze really support the body very well and allows you to get deeper into stretches. So that's the yoga trapeze, just for grounding around that topic. Sensual yoga trapeze is something that I developed after getting certified as a yoga trapeze instructor. And it was because as I was practicing and doing these flows and these movements, my sex was getting better and better and better.
Okay.
And I was like,
Something here.
I think these are connected.
and then right. And I was like, okay, so if they're connected, and I have a very creative and exploratory mind. So in my mind, I'm like, how else can this be used? If it's making my physical body feel better and it's making my sex with partners better, then how else can I use this? Can I bring other people in? And so I created partner poses, because I was like, how fun could it be to not only like use it for sexual activity, but use it for connecting, use it for grounding. Like that's what yoga is about. It's about grounding. It's about like coming back to the mat, coming back to your breath. And partner trapeze includes the same thing, that like closeness, that touching, that breathing in connection with one another. And so doing that practice and creating all these poses, and then having partners be like, hey, come over. Or even not even partners. Sometimes it's just like my best friend. And I was like, so I need you to be like this person and this. Don't be weirded out. Like, we cool.
Just
you know me. Just do it. And so, yeah, that's how trapeze evolved to sensual yoga trapeze. And now I do partner work, I do individual work, and then I also do divine feminine work with the trapeze, where we play with it and use it from like a pole to a boa. Because remember, there's the handles, long straps that you can use as a pole and slide down, or use as a boa and just kind of lean into, and then like flow into the middle basket point. Just close.
I can whip it.
She whipped that neck back.
Oh yeah. So that's trapeze. That is my love. There's so much freedom. There's sensuality, creativity, freedom, and fun. Like imagine just swinging through the air just randomly with yourself or with a partner. And and it pushes against those fears too. Like if there is the fear of freeing and coming off the ground, it helps face those. So there's my long ramble.
No, we are here for it. We are here for it. I know Alexis is very into yoga. Oh yeah, she's very much into yoga, and I just dipped like the tip of my toe into yoga because I do a lot of work.
She's slowly.
Only because like a lot of work I do in front of my computer, and I'm at my desk, and I find that like my back will get a little tight, especially I'm carrying these things around, so the back will get tight, and needing to like stretch and like just kind of open up my, or just kind of release my shoulders and lower back and open up hips and all of that. So I've started, that's one thing I said I wanted to do. And I'm just incrementally, like I do a 15-minute yoga flow every day after completing like my primary day before kind of transitioning into my evening. And so, but like in terms of like, in terms of being active, I like to spin. Like I love cycling. Also because it's competitive, and for me that's very fun. But I'm slowly dipping my toe into the yoga world, and I'm like, all right, this isn't so bad. I don't know if I'm going to be on ropes and trapezes anytime soon, but
I do.
I know you are.
Strap me up. Put me up there. I'm ready.
Coach.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I'm ready. I've been practicing. I can do this.
Shannon, you mentioned something about opening up your hips, and it triggered the second half of Alexa's question, which was how does trapeze support grief work? And so I just wanted to come back to that because that's a great question. I don't want to leave that out. Trapeze and those who practice yoga from the spiritual space in yoga, there's an understanding of like how yoga can help with the alignment and clearing of chakras, how yoga can help ground you, how yoga can help you connect back. And so that is the same for trapeze. That is the same for yoga trapeze. In the process of hip openings, right? Like you can have a crescent lunge, which is basically a lunge with your arms up. For those who aren't familiar, but a crescent lunge opens up the hip, and you can do a crescent lunge on the trapeze with the support of it. And with the support of it, you can go deeper into that. So that means there's greater access to emotion because our hips hold emotion. And when all that emotion is tied up in there and in our hips, you can find right below our hips, you find the root chakra. Right above it, you find the sacral chakra. Root chakra is connected to security, safety. That's like family, all of that, right? Sacral chakra connected to your desires, your sensuality, your sexual organs. And so when you're opening up the hips, you're expanding both of those. And that helps, one, get you back into your body, grounding, coming out of that flighty, like what's happening feeling, and also ground you back into your own potential for arousal and more pleasure, and releasing any heavy emotions that are still in connection, or even laughter. Like I've been in those deep poses and busted out in laughter because grief doesn't always look like crying, you know? So that is how trapeze supports that work. Plus many other ways. Like I can go on, but I'm not gonna keep going. I'm just gonna stop there.
No, I love that. I love what you said about how it, how it opens up it opens up and allows you to clear your chakras. Last season, we had my cousin Claire on the show, who is also she's a yoga teacher instructor. And she said something that really stood out. It says, at some point, you will cry on the mat. And, she talks about how grief is stored in the body. And like, for example, grief is stored in the chest. So people who don't want to do like heart or like chest openers, it's because they're trying to like subconsciously cower and cover themselves and protect themselves. And that's why a lot of folks will have like hunchbacks and things like that and poor posture. And it brought me back to, I think about like sensual yoga trapeze and maybe for someone who is grieving and going into these hip openers or a crescent lunge or something like that. And that may, like you said, you may burst out laughing, but it may trigger those bursts of emotion. And I can see how that could be incredibly healing for somebody, especially somebody who's newly widowed. I could see that being very helpful in that stage of grief for someone.
And then I also think about that aspect too of like being held, right? Because isn't in a way that trapeze is holding you? So for someone who's grieving, like feeling that, But what were you going to say, Robin?
I was just going to say, it was just last week I was on my trapeze yoga mat and burst out into tears. Like snot running down, like all of
A
it.
good
Just
cry.
it was a good cry.
All the motions.
It was a good cry. But then, like right after that, I got into cocoon pose. Like I finished my practice, I did all the crying, I settled back into my body, and I got in cocoon pose. And to your point of like being held, it was like being held, and then it has this kind of soft rock to it. And so it soothes, it compresses when you feel like you need that extra tight hug. Um, and I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful practice. Did you guys see the thumbs up? What is
Were those bubbles? Were those bubbles? What was
How
that?
do you have all of these things?
no idea how these things.
How do you have all of these things?
If I do another really I don't know.
I'm like, am I the only one seeing this? Like, just thought bubbles coming up. Like, if I drink too much, I'm like, maybe I need to put this down. What is happening? You have all kind of fireworks and bubbles. Like, what kind of fucking stuff you have going on over there?
Oh man!
What is happening?
Wow, that was funny.
And I love how we all saw it because I saw Alexis's eyes going and my eyes were going, and I think we had both like quietly decided to let it go. Just quietly decided to let it go, and you're like,
No,
"Do y'all see that?"
I don't fucking let it go.
I didn't know if anybody else saw it, so I didn't want to say anything because I'm like, if I'm seeing things, I don't want to be the first one.
She thought she was hallucinating.
I'm like, what's in this drink? Did I slip some shrooms in or something? I don't know what's happening. Oh my god. Oh, my stomach.
Oh shit!
Oh my god.
Okay.
I was so confused.
Such a good time.
What kind of software you got on your side?
I told you that.
This is not even my piece of equipment, so I'm just as surprised as y'all, okay?
And it comes at the most random. You're not even pressing anything because I'm like,
And she was like, I'm ready. And it was like fireworks. So, oh, you ready?
It's like, oh, all right. I get the memo. Now it's thought bubbles coming out, the thought-provoking times. I'm like, I don't understand. Can we get some
right?
some effects over here?
I thought bubble. Like, what was that show? Lizzie McGuire. Remember how like her little cartoon would come out, and then like her little Bitmoji would come out, and then she'd have her little thought bubbles, and she'd like talk. Yeah, I want a thought bubble. Oh man!
The fact that I thought I was losing my mind for a second.
That is hilarious. That was hilarious.
I was so nervous.
Oh,
maybe something was in my drink.
You said what?
Listen,
you thought you
put
something in your drink?
Liquor, so I really y'all see this, right?
Yeah, but we drank before this, so I'm like, maybe I mixed something wrong. I had one too many, or... Oh my god. Okay. All right. I gotta get back into the mode. Oh my god. Poor Milani's gonna hate us after this.
I know. Bless his heart. He's gonna be editing this like, what is wrong with these? This is what happens when you don't join recording sessions to keep us on track.
He doesn't see.
Isn't
it like 11 o'clock his time?
It's late 30.
Anywho, late 30. All right. Well, switching back gear. So, oftentimes we hear people when they're in grief try to put almost like a time frame, right, on when they should be ready to be intimate with someone else after they've lost someone. So what would you say to someone who isn't quite sure if they're ready to be intimate with someone else, or they're just kind of having a hard time navigating?
Ask your body. And it sounds like a really easy question, right? But it's like, well, what does my body sound like? And there's a practice that I support others with called hearing your body's yes and no. It's in connection to one, self pleasure, but also self consent. Like, getting consent from someone else when you're about to engage in something is important. Getting consent from your body, right? Because your body may not be ready for something. It may be tender in a way that's not wanting touch, or it may be asking for a new type of touch, or, like your body keeps the score and it tells you it's your first line of defense. It knows exactly what you need when you need it. But we get so caught up in our mind and our ego that it's hard to actually listen to what the body is trying to tell you. And so when you're trying to figure out what should you be doing with your body, you ask your body, right? So, yeah, learn to hear it. And it'll tell you when it's ready, and it'll tell you when it's not. It'll also tell you who not to fuck with. It'll be that little gut feeling. That's the don't fuck with that nigga or that chick or whomever. Don't fuck with them. Don't do it. Fuck you doing? Don't do that. Y'all hear the bubble guts you
Body
got right
knows.
Oh,
Don't feel that happiness on your chest.
Wait, you said, do y'all not feel the bubble guts you got right now?
Because they'd be like a little twerk, a little tingle, a little blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
You feel something. You're like, wait.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of people, like, I remember feeling like I don't know if shame is the right word, but it was very much like, I don't want a boyfriend, but your girl needs the oil change.
But I want some.
Yes. So, which I am not going now. I'm not going to put this person on blast, but there was somebody in particular at Alexis. I know you will remember it, and Robin, we can talk about it offline, but because I'm not going to put this person on blast. It was so like it was the first person that I like slept with since Matt had passed, and I felt like I just needed to rip off the Band-Aid in a sense. And because it was like, no, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready just to, get back to myself and get back to some sort of normalcy. And so I remember telling my mom about it. And she was like, because this person, would I'm trying to share the story without giving up any like revealing details. But this person had happened to come by, like there was a passing in the like hallway or something at the complex that I was living in at the time, a passing in the hallway. And this person was like, "Oh, are you related to Shannon? Because you look just like her." And they started talking, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, he was so sweet." And I was like, first of all, why is he stepping out of line thinking he could speak to you? Gross. But he was very much a bad pancake. And like, because it was, I thought I was ready, and then I found out I wasn't. And it was very much because the sex was terrible, and not by any means his fault or anything like that. It was just very much like once it was like, oh, yeah, I don't really... this isn't it. Like, we're not here yet. We're not ready yet. And I remember telling my mom about the experience, and she's like, it's a bad pancake. And I was like, what do you mean the bad pancake? She's like, when you're making pancakes, first one's always burnt. He's just your bad pancake. And, which, like, nicest guy in the world. We're still cool. Like, we're still cool from, afar. But no, nothing bad to say about this person, but I just remember thinking like, oh, okay, you're not ready yet. And if I look back on that experience, I can remember warning signs that my body was giving me. It was like, oh, you're not really feeling this. Like, you're forcing this. You're forcing this because he's cute and he's into you, and you just kind of, maybe want to get the ball rolling. Because I'm very much a checklist person. I like to get it done. And I'm like that about most things, about projects, about Alexis has to tell me to slow down sometimes, because once I see something and I get it in my mind, I have a vision, and it's just like, these are the steps to get here. Now we have to check these boxes. Mm-hmm. And so I really had to learn to slow down and rediscover who I was, because what you like with a partner may be different than what you like with yourself versus what you like with other people. And being in a relationship for 7 years, being engaged and about to get married, that was a very different version of me, and I had to figure out who this person was. And so that really, I think, was a very interesting time of learning how to listen to my body, because I don't think I was doing that before. I think I was just checking off boxes and doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing, versus, just taking the time and letting my body tell me when I was ready. Letting my body tell me when she was ready, I should say.
That was a time.
Right. That was a time.
That was a time.
That was a time.
I'm going to drink to that.
Alexis remembers that time very well.
I do. That was a time.
Listen, we learn, we grow. What is it? Grief is not linear and does not look the same for everybody.
Nope.
Facts.
It doesn't.
Facts. And it's the same for pleasure. It's not linear. It doesn't look the same for everybody.
In your opinion, why is it that grief has such a strong impact on our need, or the lack thereof, for intimacy and pleasure?
In my opinion, it's because we don't allow the two to reside next to one another. Meaning, we don't let pleasure and grief hold space together. We put them in the either or I can't have grief and still have my pleasures. That guilt feeling, that shame, or it's just this like inability, because we haven't been taught how to. We haven't been taught how to reconcile the two. And so it makes it hard for anybody to really delve into their pleasure when the two haven't had a chance to get to know one another. I was helping at a retreat recently, but I really took time to try to be a participant. And the retreat was called Embodying the Erotic. And one of the things that the retreat was focusing on was grief and pleasure, and how the two how the two can support one another, and how one can help you release another. Like pleasure can help you release grief. Grief can help you release pleasure. It's all in how you allow them to hold space with one another. And so like I've been doing a lot of that type of work recently. So actually when Shannon reached out, I was like, this is nothing but gold.
Won't she do it?
Nothing but universal source. Oh yeah. Does that answer your question?
People don't talk about it. And then I remembered, like, and even in my friend group, I'm very open, and like you already know, I've never had a single fuck to give ever. I don't think, and I used up all my fucks by the age of 10. You remember? Robin remembers me back when I was in a wheelchair. That's how far back we go. Back when I had legs that didn't work. That's how far back
when I
we
was
go.
In a wheelchair.
Yes, when you were in a wheelchair. That's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, we go back. So I think I used up all of my fucks back then. Like, so I very much am open, and I try to share. I share. I'm very much just an open book for the most part, and I realized it was something that not only did no one ever talk about, people tried to keep me from talking about it. Like a lot of the older people in my life were just like, well, we don't really talk about that. I'm like, but why not? Because it's a thing. It's very much a thing. And I'll never forget, it was someone because I went back to, I almost said the name. I went back to church. I almost said the name of the church. You know which one. I went back and someone had made like a comment to me. I think I had made a joke about, I don't remember what the joke was, but they were like, oh, you think he'd like that? And I said, well, he's dead. I don't think he'll care. And they were like, well, you can't, which they said that was inappropriate or something like that. And I said, well, you know what? When your spouse dies, you can tell me how to handle it better. But until then, I think I got it, coach. Like, you don't get to, until then. So,
you can't play this play. Don't tell me.
It's like, you know what? If you can tell me how to do it, once it happens to you, then by all means, tell me how I could have done this better. I'd be more than happy to hear it. But I very much was very intentional about seeking out people who had been through something similar, people who had lost their partners, and made sure to kind of, the rest to me was just noise. But I wasn't, in hindsight, not even in hindsight, I knew I wasn't being gracious then. I just didn't care. That I knew that, it was just noise. But at the same time, it was like, I need you to know that this is noise so you don't do this to somebody else. So, yeah.
Now.
So I do want to switch gears a little bit, Robin. I know you also work in, like, you do Reiki healing. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Can you share a bit more about what that work looks like for you and how it could be beneficial for someone who is struggling at that crossover between intimacy and grief, or if that is something that would be beneficial?
Yeah, so Reiki is energy healing, universal energy healing coming from source. And I practice Usi Reiki. Um, and it's interesting that you mentioned it because I had thought about it earlier with a comment that I mentioned. Was it the shock? I don't know, whatever. It was one of these comments. But moving forward, Reiki and grief. First of all, Reiki helps balance the chakras. It helps heal the body. It helps remove things. And with Reiki, I also do other energetic practices and spiritual practices, which allows me to kind of also see auras and like what else is happening energetically in the person's field. And so with that type of sight, um, it allows you to clear blockages, clear heaviness. Um, Sometimes after when you're grieving something, and grief does not just show up in death. I just want to make that clear that we have grief in so many different areas of our life. Every day, someone could be faced with a level of grief. A certain disappointment is grief. The loss of or a change in a friendship, that's grief. Now it's no longer the same. Like, and I left the US. Like, I'm grieving that. I'm not the same person that I was last year. I'm a totally different individual now. And so I'm also grieving that person who had locks and was all personal trainer and all these things. And it's like, grief just continues to be. And so with energy healing, with somatic work, which is the work that we talked about in the first half of this, like, those two together helps remove and clear out the gook so that you can really start to see what's in front of you, what's around you. You can start to feel into what you need. You start making different choices. You start, deciding to embrace your grief in a different way so that you can expound upon your pleasures. It's like it opens yourself up to your own self-healing.
I love that.
Talking about snaps.
Like I've done traditional Reiki healing before, but when we were thinking about grief and how it would be beneficial, because all of us have trauma, all of us have this heaviness, but grief just brings this crazy level into it that a lot of times people really get trapped in the feeling of grief, even long after, years after, decades after, just get trapped like this stagnant energy within someone's body because they haven't found a way to channel or move that energy. So I think that Reiki could be something really, really beneficial in how you were describing it for someone who is having a really hard time with, trying to find a way to move the energy.
Absolutely.
And like grief gets sticky. Grief gets sticky.
Mm-hmm.
Like emotions, energies, they live in the body. And so if we haven't had the tools to process our grief, haven't had the emotional capability or the emotional support to help with the processing of grief, it sticks in the body. And like you'll start to
Mm-hmm.
find things wrong. Like the way it's stuck in my body is I started to have like problems with my abdomen and fibroids grew and all these things. And it was like, oh, this is just my grief.
Mm-hmm.
This is a somatic situation that's connected to the depth of my hurt and my trauma and my fear and my feeling of abandonment and all of those things that come up when you lose certain people, when people die from your life. Like it was stuck in there and causing issues because I wasn't able and I didn't have the tools to deal with the emotion of it all. I got the tools now, baby. We good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're getting better. We're getting better.
Yeah.
It's a growth. It's a growing, right? So I won't say we're good. I am continuously growing and learning and shedding. Um, but yeah, that energy work helps move the stickiness of the grief.
And I love that you're doing that for other people because it's one thing to learn and grow. And that's actually one thing that Alexis and I really talked about when even thinking about starting this show is that we both have had to grow through some very difficult times. We both experienced very severe trauma and having to not only grow through it and find the tools to cope and because it never really leaves you. You just learn you build your life around it and you learn to continue on and it's always there. But as your life gets bigger, it gets a little, like it never gets smaller, but your life gets bigger. And so I think it's important that you are taking what you're learning and you're sharing it with you're not gatekeeping it, you're sharing it with other people. And that's the same thing that we kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
do with having these conversations, because in finding that no one was having them and I couldn't find a space, it was very much like, well then fuck it, why
Mm.
not just create the space? Let's create the space. And I just really want to thank you for coming on and having these conversations with us, because it is very important. I do think it's going to help someone who may be ashamed or afraid to ask the questions and to, seek out support. So I really do want to thank you for doing that. And I'm going to ask my favorite question now, which is, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, I want to be remembered as that dynamically embodied individual who wanted everyone to feel their own self worth and love, to feel the authenticity of themselves and love it so fully that it allows them to love others fully too. Because I am you and you are me. We're just mere mirrors. And I want people, when I leave, I want all of the work that I've done, my journals that I've created, the more journals that I have to create within my soul, the workbooks, the tools, I want all of those things to be in connection to you now found yourself so deeply and you love yourself so deeply that no matter what the fuck happens, good, bad, ugly, seemingly good, seemingly bad, um, all of it, that it don't matter because you are home within yourself. And if I can live that way and encourage people to live that way and provide them with the tools and guides to do that, that's my fucking legacy. That's it. And it makes me happy.
Here, here.
Here, fucking here. That was powerful. I will drink to that.
Cheers.
Well, it's about that time, y'all. We're going to go ahead
Yep.
and take a break, get a quick refill, and we'll be right back. And we are back with Robin Denise, and it is time to get into Am I the Asshole? Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready? Are we ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
So we recently started just diving into the depths of Hades for these because, Reddit. And so in the spirit of what we're talking about this evening, am I the asshole for forbidding my wife to go to her affair partner's funeral?
Okay, first of all, I am definitely I think I am like outside of the asshole because I am not monogamous. So this person's funeral would not be my it wouldn't be an affair. It would be my
You
partner
gotta let me
who
read the
knew that I had
scenario,
this
man.
person and I'm going to and the one who might still be alive might come with me. They might know.
Whew. All
So
right.
I can't.
Y'all ready?
I
Y'all
can't
ready?
help this person. Sorry for that, man.
Sorry to that man. All right. Married 15 years and almost didn't make it this far. In our second year of marriage, my wife went home when I was deployed and slept with some dickhead who I'll refer to as SD from here on out, who she was loose acquaintances with growing up. She hadn't seen him in years, but he just happened to show up during my daughter's birthday party because he was the son of one of my mother-in-law's old friends. SD and my wife hooked up later that week after reconnecting. The reason I didn't kick my wife's ass to the curb and eventually forgave her is because she told me herself as soon as I got home. And she didn't try to justify it with the, oh, well, you were gone, I felt lonely, blah, blah, blah. No, she actually said straight up she was a fucking dumbass. Her words, not mine, although I agree. And she felt so sick and disgusting for doing it. She immediately cut off all contact with SD and took a lot of counseling and healing, but here we are today, and it feels like nonstop since that time my wife has gone above and beyond, proving that I was right to keep her. I don't like that phrase, but whatever.
Right.
Well, my mother-in-law called yesterday, and she heard from SD's mother that SD died in some workplace accident, and they're having a funeral service this weekend. My wife told me about this, and that she wanted to go, and it was like I got kicked right in the dick. I instantly felt nauseous and had fucking horrible flashbacks of when she told me about her affair. All those horrible feelings resurfaced, along with the shitty memories of me crying my fucking eyes out and my image of her shattering. The pain felt as fresh as when she dropped that bomb on me. I asked her why, seeing as she hadn't talked to the guy in over a decade, right? Not to mention, she fucked him while we were married. She keeps saying shit like it's the right thing to do and she just wants to pay respects. I can't stop repeating that I'm so hurt with that decision, as he's had no part of her life in so long, and I'm reliving all of those shitty nights I was sure our family would be shattered, and I would only see my daughter 50% of the time. After some back and forth, I put my fucking foot down and told her, no, that was in all caps, she cannot go. I said it's so disrespectful to me and our marriage, and that we've been on the silent treatment ever since then. Am I the asshole? So to recap, this man was cheated on. His wife cheated on him while he was deployed in his second year of marriage. He came back. She told him immediately, and she felt terrible. He forgave her. The person that she slept with has now died, and he does not want her to go to the funeral. Is he the asshole?
Robin, you go first.
Okay. So, no, I appreciate those who served, and I appreciate that sacrifice. Now, that does not mean I need to agree with the way that you treat another human being and the way that you write about another human being. And so What I hear from this story is that there was a problem in this marriage well before this man or this person went to serve and do whatever the serving was. Um, and so I can't even say who the asshole is or not, because honestly, the root of the matter is this marriage needs help and support and guidance and fucking talking to. Because if this person, the woman, is coming back and doing all these things to make him happy, and his ego is still saying you can't even see a dead person who you actually used to have some sort of feeling for. That's like, what? This is a human who died, who no longer poses a threat to you. It didn't even pose a threat to you in the first place. So I can't say either. There is work that needs to be done.
So is that your consensus? No asshole, just everybody needs healing.
That's a fair stance.
It's a fair answer. It's a fair answer.
That's what I'm going with.
Alexis?
I'm 50-50 on this one. I don't necessarily know if he's the asshole per se. I think he's hurt. It's still, the issues are still there. And long after this person obviously is gone, there are still deep-rooted things there that are being triggered for whatever reason. Do I think that makes him wrong? No, but I think that he's avoiding the true issue. Like, her going to this funeral is not going to change anything. It's not like, it's not going to hurt their marriage. It's not going to make it better, but it's like the man is dead. There's nothing else that could happen from that aspect of things. Like if he has an issue with this and her just paying her respects, and it probably is not just her. If this man was like a family thing and the mother-in-law and the son and everybody's intertwined, like it's more of a cultural, societal type of thing. So I'm going to go 50-50 on this one. I wouldn't say he's an asshole, but he's not thinking logically because he's just thinking still from a space of hurt, and he needs to address that. What do you think, Shannon?
I'm going to go asshole. I'm going asshole. I'm going asshole. Full on bona fide balloon knot, baby.
All the way there.
So, and I'll tell you why. Because whenever, like, especially when you're deep, deep, deep in the throes of grief, you don't know it until you're in it. And grief isn't always rational. And I think that depriving someone of moving through that freely is very selfish and unfair. Now, do I think his feelings are valid? Yes. You're allowed to be hurt, but as you both said, this man is dead. Like, what is she going to do? Find someone else to fuck at the funeral? Like that other episode we did, Alexis? Like, what else is she going to do?
It's possible. I've heard things.
But to Robin's point, if that's the case, that marriage was broken long before she slept with that man. It was broken long before, and there's work that's not being done to truly mend those fences, to truly mend that relationship. So I think it's selfish. I think he's making it about him. I also think it's, quite frankly, and I'm not one to say, oh, he's not that hurt or whatever. I'm not one to say that his feelings are invalid, because they're definitely valid. However, I do think there might be a part of him that's not small that is concerned with how it's going to make him look that his wife goes to the memorial service or the funeral of someone she used to fuck around on him with. I think he's making it about him, and that's why I say asshole. He cares what other people are going. He's not threatened. That man is dead. He knows that. It was over a decade ago. I think that he cares about what people are going to say. This sounds, from what I've read, this sounds like a cis-normative whatever relationship, marriage, and the very traditional gender role dynamic. So I think he is worried about how his friends are going to treat him, because we all know how they get with each other, where it's like, oh, you just going to let her do whatever she wants? You just going to let her do that? Mm-hmm. You going to have her how she have you out here looking crazy? Like, I think he's letting that get to him, and he's standing in the way of her healing, and that is not fair, because Robin made a very valid point. Regardless of the the fucked upness, I don't know, I've been drinking, but regardless of how fucked up the situation may be and how she was wrong, not a word, made it a word, but besides all the straight up fuckery that she participated in and how she, ultimately did break their vows, that is someone that she cared for. And if you truly love, I think if you truly love your wife, you love your partner, and you've moved through it the way that you say you have, I think in your healing, you would have understood that this is a chapter that she needed to close, and you would have supported her through that. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. I think you made it about not wanting to look bad. And that's why I say you're a balloon knot, which is my new way to say asshole, which I think is hilarious. I saw some 5-year-old on TikTok say it, and it cracks me up every time I think about it. So, balloon knot.
Asshole.
I think we're split. I think this is the first time we're all split. Asshole. Well, Robin, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. Do you want to share where the people can find you?
Yes, please come and find me, sexy things, at Instagram, which is Robin_Denise_. You can find me on my website, www.robindenise.com. I guess you don't have to say www anymore, right? That's not a thing. I just aged myself, huh? Okay, robindenise.com. And then on TikTok, it's robin.denise. And then you can also find me on Amazon. My journal called Body Bliss is on Amazon for sale. It is a self-pleasure journal to walk you through mindful masturbation, as well as journal prompts that support the unearthing of what's happening in your body and connecting you to your body. It is a self-love practice, and it's a 21-day practice with a gratitude portion at the back. It has helped me on my own sensual wellness practice, and I love it. Anyway, so that's where you can find me on Amazon too. Body Bliss is the name of the journal, by Robin Denise.
Okay, mindful masturbation. Okay. With a gratitude. I am grateful for this orgasm and this clarity.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
I know that's right. And of course, you can keep up with me at I Do Death on Instagram and X, idodeath.com, as well on TikTok as I.do.death. Someone was a hater and took I Do Death, so whatever. And of course, you can follow the show at Get Stiff Podcast on Instagram.
And you can find me on everything at Death with Lex.
So, as always, thank you so much, Robin, for joining us. This has been so much fun, and you are the best. And thank you for dropping gems with us and just getting to the nitty gritty. So, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. This was magnificent, so much fun, and I love this topic. So if you've got more for me, questions, I'm happy to come back.
Yes. Well, y'all, that's it for us. So as always, it's been another episode of Get Stiff, Stiff Talk,
Stiff Drinks,
and we out. Bye. We don't get any pop-ups. We don't get any pop-ups. We're not cool.
I know. I don't get a fancy fucking.
Maybe do the thumbs up thingy again. See if that does it. I think you got to do 2.
Scam likely.
Scam. There it is.
What the heck? I like celebrations. It's not fair.
Get Stiff is produced by Milan Reed. Do you love us and want to help others find the show? If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. For all audio platforms, please rate and review the show. It helps others find us, and we'd love to know what you think. Do you have a topic you want to hear us get into? A drink recipe you'd like to recommend? Do you have a story to share? We want to hear from you. Get in touch at getstiffpodcast@gmail.com or reach out on Instagram at getstiffpodcast.